What's up, YouTube? This is another installment of my Season of the Fans series, Philadelphia Eagles. Whereas you guys might remember, I put together this series uh, at the start of last season and went through the season with the Eagles. Disappointing end to the season, and of course now a big bombshell was you know um, put out earlier a couple days ago when it was announced. It's not official yet because the NFL calendar month doesn't change until I believe next Tuesday. But the Eagles, of course, will be official then. Eagles trade All-Pro running back LaShawn McCoy to the Bills for middle linebacker Kiko Alonso. Alonso was hurt last year with the ACL injury. He was out the whole year. However, as a rookie, he was one of the ones that were could have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Over 150 tackles, had a really solid season as a rookie, and of course he is from Oregon. So another duck comes in. We got the duck boat going here, but so that's the trade. My initial thought to it was just, what are they doing? Like it was last year when they got rid of when they released, I should say, Deshaun Jackson. Now it's trading LaShawn McCoy, two great offensive players on the Eagles. My thoughts on this is that, all I can do as a fan is just kind of, all I can do as a fan is watch the games. Now, obviously, I don't have a say in their decision making and what they do. I can always get an opinion, as it is with sports talk. It's always about opinion. It's initial reactions to it, and my initial reaction to it, of course, was disappointment because, as any Eagle fan, we love Shady McCoy. We love what he brought to the team week to week. He was a great running back. He still is going to be a great running back in Buffalo. Just a real fun guy to watch play. Running back is my favorite position. It's been my favorite position since Barry Sanders was playing in Detroit. And LaShawn McCoy was one of the closest running backs that I ever saw to play like Barry Sanders. Just in his ability to improvise and make something out of nothing. Really, that kind of, that he used to call it the joystick moves. The cut on a dime type plays. I mean, it's snowing outside now, and it just reminds me of that game a couple years ago at Lincoln Financial Field against Detroit, where he ran over the Lions' defense in the second half in the snow. And what a great game that was for the Eagles. But he had a lot of success with the Eagles, franchise record holder in yards total yards in a season, touchdown record. Basically, did it all as a running back here for many years, and he's definitely going to be missed. The one thing we have to remember, as much as we're fans of these teams and of these players, in sports like anything else, it's a business. There's going to be business decisions made, and sometimes it hurts to make them, but there's going to be made. They're made for all sorts of teams. I saw today on NFL Network, Patriots are going to release Vince Wilfork, and obviously Shady's not at the age of Vince Wilfork, but you talk about players being on a team his whole career, had a lot of success with the team. Maybe Vince a little more than Shady because they won a Super Bowl, but certainly those type of glue and guts type players on a team, and we all are such big fans of, and the next thing you know, they're playing somewhere else. Happens in every sport, and it's always a shame, but it is a business. The Eagles feel like that was too much money to be spending on a running back at a position that, as much as I'm a big fan of that position, it's being phased out a little bit. It's become more of a passing league. It's cyclical. For a time, the NFL was running, then it became passing, then it became running again, and now it's becoming passing again. And one thing about Chip Kelly is I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a guy that knows a lot about offense. He knows what it takes to put together a good offense. Unfortunately, it means making his omelet with breaking a few eggs, losing out on releasing Deshaun Jackson last season, McCoy, and we can speculate and we can go back and forth, about what could, how this offense could be next season without LaShawn McCoy, and obviously still without Deshaun Jackson, and what it's going to be. We can speculate on it. Until it happens, we're not going to know. And my way about thinking about this trade is that I'm willing to sit back and say, okay, they got a guy who in Kiko Alonso who seems, obviously coming off the ACL. He was out all last season, but so was Jeremy Maclin. He came back pretty good from his ACL injury. Players have come back from that injury, but when he was a rookie, he was a dominant player with the Bills. And I can't really speak that I've seen a lot of Bills games, being an Eagles fan, being in the Eagles market. But what I've seen about him and the footage that I've seen over the years, I remember he was part of that top 100 player list from NFL Network a couple years ago. High motor guy, high energy, makes a lot of tackles. He had over 150 tackles as a rookie, and also really good at pre-snap cut reading. Good in coverage. And, that's something that, over the years, the Eagles' defense hasn't been the greatest at, with all due respect to the guys that have been on the team. You're adding a young talent. You never know what they could do, but you're adding a young talent to a defense. It seems like they want to go younger. They did release Trent Cole. I believe the next shoe to drop will be D'Amico Ryans. I don't know that as a fact, but I'm just guessing with this recent move. They also bring in Jones from the Packers, another linebacker with upside. Who was part of a numbers game there, was released because they have, some other linebackers there ahead of him. Michael Kendricks is still a young linebacker. You add Alonzo to that. You add Jones. I'd like to see them get Jason Worlds, who's a free agent, former Steeler, who they released. Another, good high motor guy, high motor linebacker, makes a lot of plays. If they can do that, and if they can use the money that they're now, they have almost $50 million in the cap to use. If they can get a Byron Maxwell, if they can get a Devin McCourty, if they, add a veteran corner, draft a corner in the draft, get a veteran corner like a Flowers, like a Williams, another guy was released by the Packers. If they can do these things and start to put this defense together, they have some good pieces already. You talk about Connor Barwin, you talk about Michael Kendricks, you talk about Fletcher Cox on the defensive line. Benny Logan, a guy they brought in last year, former Saint, Malcolm Jenkins. You start to put other pieces around these guys, and again, this is relatively going to be a young defense, and they have enough playmakers on it. You bring in Byron Maxwell, Devin McCourty. I mean, the secondary, who hasn't been very good in a number of years, can start to get good again. And obviously, you need a pass rush. I like their interior defense on the defensive line, and obviously Barwin. You need an edge rusher. They lost Cole. They're probably going to lose Brandon Grant. I think that's kind of a shame, unless they bring him back, because he finally seemed to start to come into his own in the NFL, although they should have drafted Earl Thomas those years ago instead of him. But he was. He had a good year last year, solid year, was part of a good rotation on that defensive line last year. And if whoever gets him, I think they'll be getting a good player who's still, coming into his own in the NFL. Again, I'd like to see the Eagles bring him back, but I don't know if they will. If one of their plans for this offseason is to start to really put things together for this defense, if losing Shady McCoy means to do that, here in Philadelphia, Eagle fans all across the world, we love a good defense. In Philadelphia, it's blue collar, it's a hard-nosed city, it's a hard-nosed town, and we love a dominant defense. That's something, defensive players over the years is something that we always have a soft spot for. We've always been held high in regard. You go back to the Chuck Bednarik days, you talk about the Reggie Whites, you talk about the Jerome Browns, the Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, you talk about Brian Dawkins, Hugh Douglas, Jeremiah Trotter, recent years, Trent Cole. These are guys that we'll always speak highly of, that we'll always think highly of, and that's something we want. And you look at the NFL today, and a lot of the teams that win, hey, look, the old adage is so true. Defenses win championships. You can have all the weapons on offense you want. I harken back to the Super Bowl 38. You had the Denver Broncos, one of the greatest offenses put together. You had all those weapons there. They were dominant during the season. They got slapped around by Seattle and that great defense. You look at how the Patriots, even as great as an organization as they've been, hadn't won a Super Bowl in how many years, right? 10 years or whatever it was. What did they do last year in the offseason? They get Darrelle Revis. They get Browner. They put some pieces together. Of course, previous years, they're getting these young guys on defense. They're building that defense. And we can always talk about Tom Brady and all the success he had. Well, you know what? If they don't have a defense there, it doesn't matter about Tom Brady. Okay? Because you have to have that. And unfortunately, for how many years, the Eagles they've had some good players, but they haven't had that collective unit. And if they can get this secondary put together right, if they can get the linebackers right, to go with what they have, what I believe they have in the defensive line, although they need an edge rusher, if they can get that right, they can start to put together this defense and make it into something that could be a great defense if they can make these moves and get these players. That's just my opinion. And that's something that I want them to do. I want them to put this defense together. I want to watch a great defense again. It's been a while. Brian Dawkins and Hugh Douglas and Jeremiah that was a long time ago. So I want to see that again. Offensively, obviously, there's a huge void with the loss of LaShawn McCoy. There's no getting around that. He was a talent. You lose a talent, it's always a tough thing. Shady was a great player, will be a great running back with Buffalo. He was a great running back here. I thank him for the great years he gave us. Obviously, a tremendous loss. The one thing I want the Eagles to do in this offseason, if I were to have my wish list, I'd like them to bring back Jeremy Maclin. They didn't franchise tag him. Again, saving some money there, I guess. But I hope they bring him back. He knows this offense. He was the leading receiver last year. Came back off the ACL injury. Had a solid year, great year. Could have been a Pro Bowler. Really, he did. He had a great season, and I hope they bring him back. I'd like to see them upgrade over Riley Cooper. I don't think that they'll be able to go out and grab a Randall Cobb if they bring back Maclin and spend money on him. But maybe a guy like a Pierre Garçon is someone that they can bring in. I think that would be an upgrade over Riley Cooper. I like the young receiver they have in Jordan Matthews. I like him in the slot. If they can get Garçon on one end, bring Maclin back. You have Zach Ertz. You have a couple other young, weapons. Huff, another former Oregon Duck, but he could be a good receiver. Going forward. We'll see. But obviously, I think the main thing for them this offseason offensively is to bring back Jeremy Maclin. And you talk about the void at running back. Now they have Darren Sproles, they have Chris Polk, but both of them are more of your complementary backs. Both of them aren't the guy that's going to shoulder the load. At least I don't think. And I like both of them, but I like both of them as the complementary back role that they have. I heard today on NFL Network the Eagles might be looking at Mark Ingram, former New Orleans Saint, of course, University of Alabama. I think that would be a bad move. I think one of the things the Eagles want to do going forward is get a back who's more kind of hit the whole guy than dance around. As fun as it was to watch Shady, believe me, it was. If that's the direction they want to go in, then that's the direction they're going to go in. Whether it's bringing in a Mark Ingram, whether it's looking at the draft, maybe getting a Todd Gurley. I know it's a very deep draft for running backs this year. Again, you're not going to replace Shady. You're not going to replace that production individually with just one guy. But maybe if you can get, that kind of three-headed monster, and have similar numbers, maybe 1,300 yards between three guys instead of one guy, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe, I look at the Patriots. They don't have a dominant running back. They won a Super Bowl, It's not to say that, you need to have that one guy at running back to win. Now, the Seahawks did it with Marshawn Lynch, but they had a great defense, obviously. And, of course, Russell Wilson making plays. So, yeah, that would be my wish list. I know that Dallas fans are kind of worried now that the Eagles are going to get DeMarco Murray. I don't think they will, only because if they're not going to pay Shady, they're not going to throw a lot of money at running back. They're not going to throw a lot of money at DeMarco at Murray. And So I don't think Dallas fans have to worry about seeing him in midnight green this coming season. Could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't think they would lose Shady, and they did. But so I would imagine they'll probably go the Mark Ingram route or draft a back like I said, like a Todd Gurley if he falls to them. I think they could maybe draft him. If I were to have my pick of running backs, I'd say Adrian Peterson, but that's a pipe dream. So that's the guy I would get. But what can you do about that? So that's what I would imagine the Eagles are going to do. And of course, then there is the big duck in the room, right? The draft day, Marcus Mariota. And if Chip feels that this is going to be his guy, and I'm not a Nick Foles hater, believe me, I'm not. If Chip feels that this is his guy and this is who he needs to bring in, if this is something that's also going to keep Chip here, a lot of people say he's just going to go back to college in a year. Well, if he obviously drafts Marcus Mariota, he's going to be here for at least another 3 years, right? With Marcus Mariota trying to build this thing. But one thing I know, what we know about Chip, is that he wants to build this team in his way. He's not afraid to cut players loose, fan favorites loose. He did it with Jackson. He's traded McCoy. They cut some other players. Todd Harriman's been here a long time. Trent Cole. He's not afraid to move on from players who were already in place when he came here. Because those aren't his guys, and he wants his guys. And as an Eagles fan, I want them to do whatever it is that they have to do to finally have that ultimate success, to finally win the Lombardi Trophy. It's all I've hoped for my whole life being an Eagles fan. All I can say is I want this to work. I want the Chip experience to work, because I don't want to go through a whole nother, bring in another coach, bring in another whole regime, more players. We're going to start over from scratch again. I'm hoping, and I want this thing to work with Chip, because I don't want to go through that whole thing again. And then the next one could take even longer. Who knows? So I hope this works. And like I said, I'm going to reserve judgment on this trade until I see how it all works out. And I'm not just talking about the offseason and the draft. I'm talking about going into next season. Let's see how these pieces, who they get, with the money that they released McCoy. Now they get some of these players. Let's see how they produce. They have to be aggressive in the free agency. That's a must. For me, that's another reason that this trade is going to work. If they're aggressive and they get those guys. And some people might be saying, well, some years ago they were aggressive. They got Ashamoah. They got DRC. They put together and it didn't work out. Well, we have to remember that at that point they had an offensive line coach as a defensive coordinator in Juan Castillo. Probably not a great decision. But it didn't work out then. And I was all excited after they got Ashamoah, all the other Eagle fans, It didn't work out. But just because it doesn't work out once doesn't mean it's not going to work out now. Now they have a defensive coordinator in place in Billy Davis, starting to put things together. They're starting to get some guys in here in the system. They're working. Bring in more. Let's make this thing work. Let's get the defense in place. Because you know what? If they don't get the defense in place, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter if they have Nick Foles, if they have Marcus Mariota, if they have Tom Brady or Russell Wilson, or name a quarterback. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter who they have at running back. It's not going to matter who they have at wide receiver. If you don't have a defense, you're not going to win. It's just that's how it works. You have to have a defense. And if this is the Eagles' thought process, if this is it, okay, well, we tried this with these electrifying offensive players and we haven't won. We haven't won a playoff game since 2008. We need to go in another route. And if putting together a defense, using the money in the free agency to get guys on defense like Maxwell, McCourty, Worlds, I'm okay with that. And okay, you bring back Macklin, you bring another piece in here, maybe like I said, like a Pierre Garçon, maybe a Mark Ingram. Okay, I can live with it because I know that you're trying to put this defense together. And if you move up in the draft and move all the picks and whatever, They get Marcus Mariota. As long as you're doing what you need to do on defense and put the defense together, I can live with what you do on offense. I can live with watching Mark Ingram run the ball and Darren Sproles and Chris Polk have like a committee of running backs and have Marcus Mariota, at quarterback and have whatever receiver. I can live with that as long as you're stopping the other team. I can live with it. I can live with maybe scoring. If Chip feels that he can do an offense, he can score with anyone, and it works. Okay, if you're scoring 30 points a game and you're stopping the other team, that's what's most important. But if you're scoring 30 points a game and the other team's scoring 35, you're not doing your job. Something's wrong. Let's fix it. And that's why my bottom line in this is I'm just going to sit back. I'll watch what they do in the offseason. I want them to be aggressive. I want them to make moves on defense. I want them to bring back Macklin, bring in a few more pieces, see what they do at running back. I want to see how this whole thing works. The draft, all this, before I really pass my final judgment on this trade. It hurts to see Shady go. It does. And I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss watching him run in Eagles Midnight Green. I'm going to miss that. And I do have to tip the hat to him and tip the hat to Todd Herremans and Trent Cole. And if they lose D'Amico Ryans, to D'Amico too. They were great players here. They were what leaders should be on a team, particularly in Herremans and Cole. They've been here a long time, both of them. And Cole second only to Reggie White in career Eagles franchise record for sacks. Great careers they had. And Herremans was an anchor on that offensive line for many years, and they had a lot of success within the Eagles franchise, and Eagle Nation will always remember them. I will always think highly of them, as well as Shady, and even though he wasn't here for that long, D'Amico Ryans too, what he brought to the team, and his stability at the linebacking core. Yeah, they're definitely going to be missed. We're not going to miss Kerry Williams as much. Mr. Flag waiting to happen, penalty flag waiting to happen. We're not going to miss, him. But those other guys we're certainly going to miss, and they'll always be remembered and remembered fondly. In fact, the Eagles play the Bills this season at Lincoln Financial Field, so Shady will return to Lincoln Financial Field, and he'll get a huge ovation when he comes back. See a lot of 25 jerseys in the crowd that day, as well as any game. I'm sure there'll still be a lot of people wearing their McCoy jerseys to games. I know I'll still wear my McCoy jersey. So, yeah, I mean, we will remember them, and we will always think highly of them for what they brought to the team, and what they brought to us for Sundays. But as I said, it's a business, and sometimes you got to move forward. You got to make tough decisions to try to better the team. And if this is a decision that Chip Kelly, who's now in charge of all the player personnel, if this is a decision that he feels is best to help move the team forward, move them in the direction that he wants to move them in, direction that hopefully leads to a Super Bowl, then I'm okay with the decision and wait and see what they do. But I'll only be okay with it if they're aggressive in the free agency now. If they kind of sit back and let Maxwell go to another team and McCoy go, they have no excuses. Almost $50 million to spend. Go out there, spend it on the right players, bring them in, let them be part of this rebuild, let them be part of this team that can hopefully, within the next few years, bring us a parade down Broad Street that we're all waiting for. So that's my take on the trade. Definitely surprised. This is one of those things. My phone went off on Tuesday, ESPN alert, and it was the LaShawn McCoy trade. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's just shocked. How really? But the more I look at it and kind of go beyond the fandom, looking at not with my fan eagle eyes, but with my football eyes, and seeing what this could bring back, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, I gotta say I'll be okay with it if that's what they do, and if obviously it has to have success. Is it going to have success? We're not going to know. We're not going to know until they play, until they line them up, and what the Eagles roster is going to look like next year. We're not going to know until it's all put together. and they get through the training camp, through the preseason, into the season, then we'll start to see, and going through the season, what the 2015-2016 Eagles are going to be all about. And in the moves that I laid forth is what I hope they do, but we'll see if they go out and do it. So anyhow, that's going to do it. I want to give a quick shout out here to T. Spence, one of the members of the TTC. I'm not a member of that group yet, but maybe coming into the fall, I can represent the Eagles in it, but be one of the Eagle fans in it. But we'll see. I'm not making promises here, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to keep this season of the fan series going. I'm gonna keep it going. Through the, after all the moves are made in the offseason, I'll have another follow-up video for that after the draft, obviously, and then going into next season. So that's going to do it for this. Again, a shout out to T. Spence. I know even though he's a Dallas fan, he does some great videos, and he's a big-time sports fan, big-time fan of different teams like the Yankees and the Lakers and University of Washington Huskies and the San Jose Sharks. He's out on the West Coast there, big Sharks fan. Big diehard fan of those teams, and I have a lot of respect for that. And big shout out to you. And that's going to do it for this video. My reaction to the LaShawn McCoy trade. And like I said, I'm just going to wait back and see what they do. I'm a fan. That's all I can do. I can bitch and moan about it, but I want to see what they do. I'm intrigued now, more intrigued than I was a couple days ago into this offseason, to the free agency coming up, to see what they do. I hope they're aggressive. And so, as always, this is me signing off for now. But go Eagles! Let's go get in the free agency. You have a lot of money. Go spend it. All right, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Go Birds. Bye.